Welcome to Fellowship Safaris, conversations about people of color and their journeys to subspecialist training in their countries of origin and around the world. Hey everyone, and welcome back to yet another conversation, or rather, I should be saying continuation of the conversation that we had started in the previous episode. My name is Dr. Jerry Kariajahe. I'm a consultant pediatrician and adolescent medicine specialist based in Nairobi, Kenya. Dr. Phanice Okara was talking to us about where the journey began and the starting point in terms of her medical education journey into fellowship. If you haven't had a chance to take a listen to that conversation, I highly recommend going back to your playlist and listening to part 1 of this conversation. And for those who already have, welcome to part 2. Join us as we continue on this safari. The one question I was asked when I came back was, why did you come back? So for you, why come back to Kenya?
For me, I think the pull was family.
Mm-hmm.
So I think before my mom died, but even before that, I think I felt like, no, because when I was doing my Canadian application, there was a pull back to Kenya. I felt like, I don't know if I can stay out there for too long. Kind of need to be near my siblings and my parents as much. I didn't feel like I could do, this for too long. Like stay out there for too long. And then the excitement of being able to change things. I feel like in Kenya, the trajectory, it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot more we can achieve. Those guys have already sort of reached there. It's like they may not be at the peak, but they're very close to the peak. And we are on our way there. And then I felt like I could agitate and advocate for change here.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's hard, which it has been hard. I felt like my voice would mean more here than if I stayed there. You probably would be trying to change something within the unit. If you're out there, like, let's do X. Let's try and push X. And you're moving it from like a slight point, from point 1 maybe to point 2. Something like that.
Point 1 to 1.2. Yes.
But here in Kenya, it just feels like one small introduction of something will just be a massive change. That's what I felt. That's what I wanted to come and just try and do. But I've told you this. I did have a backup plan.
Yes. Tell me about the backup plan, because I think it's assumed doctors, we have very flowery things waiting for us.
No.
There's a job waiting for you. Umefanya kazi nzuri sana. As in you've studied, so you should be able to get a job.
And I'll tell you this. I'll just go back a little bit. When I finished postgrad, so when I was doing my postgrad, I was not employed. So... And then when I finished postgrad, I remember going, what do you call it? Tamaking, yes? So in different hospitals, looking for jobs. I knew I didn't want to work in a public hospital because of the... as much as the national hospital had very good experiences, there was an ICU nearby. You could agitate for things and things like that. But moving a baby from one of the county hospitals or a sub-county to try and help them or try to aim for them to survive was just something I just felt like I couldn't. It felt like it would take too much of me. So I knew I was going to work in a private institution. So then you start job hunting. And I remember, I think, going a month, 2 months in, and I had no income. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have a master's degree.
As my grandmother used to call it, master.
Yes.
You're in a master.
A master. I have a master's degree and I have no job and no income. I have no job and no income at this point. And that was daunting and hard at the time. And the same thing now.
Fast forward
to now fellowship.
Yeah. After finishing 5 years.
Away. And I have no prospects in Kenya. No prospects at all.
Not a single
one.
Where?
Nothing has come my way at all.
Yeah. And this is in your prep time.
Yeah, this is in my prep time. So now we're looking
you're still in Canada trying to figure out next steps.
This is 2021, end of 2021 going into 2022.
Yeah.
I was coming back in June.
Yeah.
So 6 months into it, I am looking at adverts. I am looking at asking people what's happening around. And there are no prospects at all.
Yeah.
Zero, none. And come January, I'm seriously now thinking.
Right. What's the plan? Yes.
You're not going to just sit at home and chill.
Yeah.
And if it means working somewhere is not your first choice, you need a backup plan.
Yeah.
Okay? And so once in a while, when I was in Canada, I think I used to look at NHS jobs, which is a website where you'd find any sort of job in the NHS, anything.
And we'll put a link.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in the notes, right?
So anything.
Yeah.
If you're looking for any kind of work experience, where whichever subspecialty, whichever specialty, whichever level, that's the link. NHS jobs, basically. So once in a while, I used to look through and go, I think I can do this job.
Yeah.
Or maybe I should, that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
So I remember going through, I think I was in my developmental peds rotation.
Yes.
And it's kind of quiet.
Yeah.
And I started looking through NHS jobs.
Yeah.
And then I saw a job in transport. And
stomping grounds.
Yes. And then I remember, because you have an account.
Yeah.
It's a track jobs account. That's how you apply for jobs in the NHS.
Yeah.
So I think I'd gotten an alert for my account. It has been dormant, or some things are not up to date, or something like that, basically. So as I'm trying to update my account, I started applying for this job.
Yeah.
And so I had to go back and forth. So certain things I had to pull up from that, or I'm being asked in the application, that I also need to fill in my track jobs account.
Yeah.
So I'm moving and moving and moving. And then I think the shift used to end at 4 p.m. So 4 p.m. reaches and I'm like, it's time to go.
Yes.
And I look at the application and I think I'd done like 3/4 of it.
Yes.
So now you have a number, you have everything. You've been sort of enrolled into the application process.
For that particular job.
Mm-hmm. So I closed the account. I used to walk home those days.
Yeah.
Yvonne got me to walking home from the hospital
to
the house.
Yes.
In the last year. So I was walking home and on my way, one of the things I loved about walking home is just the reflection going home. So on my way, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I started a job application
to the UK. Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like if I finish it, chances are I'll be offered something.
Yes.
So it's not something I can easily say, I'll apply for it and then maybe nothing will come out of it. Then I told myself, they may not give me the job. So what I'll do, this sounds like fate.
Yeah.
So I'll just finish the application.
Yes.
And then leave it.
Yeah.
Okay. And if something comes out of it, that's fine.
Yeah.
If nothing comes out of it, that's fine as well.
Yeah.
And then I think within that weekend, I finished the application.
Yeah.
And the day I finished the application must have been the closing day. Because the next day, when I opened NHS jobs, I didn't see the application.
But I'd finished
the
last quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I can't remember whether I can't remember whether the system would lock you out of a job that you've already applied for or that it would still be there. I can't remember that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I sit around, hang around, working and whatever.
Yeah.
Then I see an email from one of the NHS, hospitals.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh dear, here we are.
Yeah.
And of course, let's do an interview. They already knew I was out of the country.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was during COVID-ish 22,
Yeah.
So everything was virtual anyway. No, it was early 2022.
Oh,
it was Jan, Feb, somewhere there.
Okay.
I think it was Jan. So I already kind of had my Oh, gosh. Okay. Interview. Okay. It's going to be at 4 a.m. in the morning. I cannot do a 4 a.m. in the morning interview.
Yeah.
So you'll have to change it. Anyway, changed it and everything. And I also sort of had, oh dear, if they ask me when to start, you know, I mean, I'm already in a fellowship right now. I probably need a break and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. Anyway, did the interview.
Yeah.
And then towards the end now, it's the process of from HR. When can you start? What do you think and things like that. Yeah. And at the time, I don't know if anyone has done this. And I remember asking around. I asked Brian and I asked Njale, one of my friends.
Yeah.
Which I think is impossible. My plan was work in UK for 6 weeks and then come to Kenya, do 6 weeks, and then go back to UK and do 6 weeks. And then... So that was my thinking. I'll have a bit of both. I'll have the UK experience and I'll be at home with my family.
Oh my gosh. You make the UK sound like it's, I don't know,
around the corner.
Between Nairobi and Meru. I'll just be going back and forth.
I'll just be going back and forth.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, because I had zero experience in the hustling bit of being a neonatologist, being in private practice, you kind of need to keep those connections going. You can't tell an obstetrician I'm around and then next week I'm not around.
Yes.
And so
kind of that piece as well.
I didn't know. Like I had a feeling, but I wasn't too sure. But I'm also thinking, maybe I can get an employer who would agree to that.
Yeah.
And then I'm also thinking, I don't think any of these private hospitals will agree to that.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about it, dancing around it, because they offered me the job.
Yeah.
And I told them I can only start in January. Yeah. And that was in March. So that was like, they wanted me to start in September. And I was like, I'll finish in June. Yeah. 2 months and then I leave? No. So just thinking through that, that was my idea. I'll do 6 weeks here and 6 weeks there, or 6 weeks here and 4 weeks there. And like, you know, I'm going to make it work.
Somehow.
Yes, somehow it'll work. I'll be very exhausted, but it'll work. It'll work and I'll have both worlds. Yeah. And I talked to Brian and Brian told me, you're mad. That's not going to work.
You've got to decide
That's impossible.
What it is that you're going to do.
Yes, you've got to decide what you're going to do and where you're going to be.
So what you do?
So I told myself, I will come home and try for at least 3 to 4 months. Because I knew the process to start your immigration would start towards the latter quarter of the year, so October. Yeah. So I had until October to sort of figure out, can it work in Kenya or not? And so when I finished in June, I immediately got here and I remember just starting applications and things and whatever. And I met Brian like 2-3 days after I had landed. To have a conversation about what's possible, what can be done, what cannot be done. Yeah. This is what you need to sort of start looking towards doing. Yeah. And then I did my applications. I sent everything out. Right. And then now I am waiting and waiting and sitting at home and waiting and eating nyamachoba.
And waiting.
And waiting. And waiting. Gosh. And waiting. And waiting. Yeah. And somewhere in, I think, end of August, September, my dad tells me, I don't think this is working out. I think you might have to go to UK. Yeah. And I remember at
your
the time,
dad being the voice of reason.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
They have seen this story.
Yes. This does not seem to be working. Yeah. And then on top of that, my uncles had sort of, I don't even know how they heard about it. I can't remember. Yeah. But they're like, it's, that prestigious institution. Yes. You have to go.
What do you mean? It's the UK.
What do you mean? Yes, it's the UK and it's, this prestigious institution. Yes. You have to go. They have asked for you. You must go. You must go. Yeah. And you'll make a lot more money. No. You must go. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, no, that's not what I'm thinking of. I want to stay here.
I want to stay home.
Yeah, I want to stay home. Yeah. And then I think everyone just got around it. Okay, fine. First aim is to try and stay home. Yeah. And then in the middle of September, now I'm resolved to, there's nothing going on. Yeah. Maybe get your mind around it. Right. Start your applications. Yeah. When they send the paperwork.
Your UK applications now.
Yes. Start your applications because nothing is working out here. Yeah. And then I think towards the end of September, I got my first call to attend a delivery. Mm-hmm. And then, from that...
Here now in Kenya.
Come and attend this delivery, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, fine. maybe let's hold and see.
Yeah.
And then I got another call like that. So when the paperwork came, which I think was mid-October.
Yeah.
By that time, I mean, it wasn't like the money was flowing.
Yeah.
There was barely any money,
but
zero money.
You started getting...
Yeah, but now I was like, okay, there's some light at the end of this tunnel.
But let me ask, before you go ahead, how did you break what I call the Kenyan barrier? And Kenyan barrier meaning you've been away for 5 years.
Oh, gosh.
Gynecologists
don't know you.
Yeah. Because, and a lot of the times it's based on like the guys who are around your year ahead, maybe slightly and slightly behind you.
Yeah.
You guys Joanna. So even in terms of calling, you'll be like...
They'll call each other.
Yeah. Like, hey, call Phanice for this. But now... all the people who know you have phased out and have sort of gotten partnerships with neonatologists. Because typically that's what happens. Like a gynecologist will partner with a neonatologist.
Yeah.
So how did you break that Kenyan barrier? I've given it a name, the Kenyan barrier.
The Kenyan barrier.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't completely broken that barrier because what you're describing is actually true. Because I was gone for 5 years, all my classmates who are obstetricians, say in postgrad or in undergrad, already had paediatricians and neonatologists that they were partnering with.
Yeah, and working with.
Right. And they were not going to break. So it's very hard for, I'm working with Jerry and then all of a sudden to just drop Jerry.
Yeah, and start working with Phanice.
Yeah, that's quite difficult.
Yes. Unless something drastic happens.
Which rarely happens. Yeah. And then, so I actually did a lot of introductions. So say like, and Jerry, I know, like Jerry tells me, I know an obstetrician. I think they're looking for someone. Oh, I know an obstetrician.
Yeah, period.
Meet this obstetrician.
Yeah.
So I go and I meet them and it's almost like an interview.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Phanice. I'm here.
Yeah.
I've just gotten one admission, right?
For one hospital?
For this one hospital. And as the others come in, I will let you know.
Yeah.
But I am willing to work with you and all that and everything.
Yeah.
And it all felt very rosy.
Yeah.
But very few called back. Very few got in touch.
Yeah.
Very, very few. As you're saying, it's very difficult to break that bond.
Yeah.
So that was one of the barriers. I think what helped in a way was some of the new obstetricians that are starting out, some of them, there were some who were looking for a pediatrician and neonatologist. Yes.
Nice.
And so you link up with one or two and then that kind of helped at the time.
Yeah.
With time, then you just make a few jumps here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, help out a bit.
Yeah.
I think that kind of helped, basically. Yeah. And then a lot of what I used to get at the time was Hospital X is calling you. Are you available?
Yeah.
And one time I was actually in the safari walk.
Yeah.
So I literally have no job. I have nothing to do.
Yes.
So yes, I'm available. I'll come for the delivery right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm coming.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Let's grab in.
Yeah.
I'll come in, I'll attend the delivery.
Yeah.
And then that's what just helped in terms of, especially in that particular hospital.
Yeah.
Just fueling calls. And then
and now nurses, people are seeing you.
People are seeing you.
Nurses are seeing you.
Nurses are seeing you, exactly. Wow. And again, you have to build a trust with the nurses. The same thing, the same process. Trust with the nurses, trust with your obstetricians, trust with your pediatric colleagues, trust, like that. You have to build it up.
All over again.
Yes. And every hospital, you get admission rights. It's the same process again.
Yes.
It's the same.
Build their trust.
Build their trust.
Right.
Yeah. So just let them see what you can do.
Yeah.
And then let them trust you. And then with time, it just builds.
Yeah.
And I think that's just sort of how I've survived.
How you survived.
Until this point.
Yeah. The other one is a bit of a tricky question, and I recognize it is, in the sense that you've been away studying for 5 years in terms of neonatology. Now there's a program here, or there are other people who have been practicing. How was their acceptance in terms of somebody having done something completely different, coming back into the fold?
Okay.
Was it open arms? Was it a bit of a tussle between this new kid, what are they going to tell us?
I think in some cases it was open arms. In some cases, it wasn't an open tussle.
Yeah.
But you can just feel a bit of resistance from somewhere in the background.
Yeah.
But really good advice I got from Nyambura Kariuki was just take your time. Take your time. And it'll just come through.
Yeah.
So I think what I would say to like people who are starting out is don't fight the system too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Try and just come very slowly, because you don't want to start battles with established systems.
Yeah.
Basically, whether it's in the established system in the hospital, established system in terms of what the doctors have been doing, and something like that.
Yeah.
Just come very slowly, do your thing, and then I think it will sort of build.
Yeah, build from there.
Yeah.
I really love that, because I think even me when I was in transition, one of my friends and colleagues was just like, give yourself time.
Yeah.
And when I say time, give yourself at least 1 year.
Yeah.
To settle in, let people get to know you, let people get to see what you're doing. It may not look like it's yielding anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's difficult because at least for you, there are other neonatologists.
Yes.
For
you it's different.
It's almost defining who I am to begin with.
So everyone is coming to you. You're like the pioneer.
In a good way, yay. But also on the flip side,
everyone is asking you everything.
Everyone is asking everything, but also guys are like, and so we've been without your specialty for so long.
Yeah. So what's so different?
So what's so different now?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So even that first year, it was a bit painful and very humbling, because you've come from a place where adolescent medicine is popping off the walls.
Yes,
you know, as
exactly.
everybody's doing their thing, to a place where now, guys, you're trying to explain, like, this is
what
my
I can
role.
do. Yeah.
And I'm not taking your role. I'm not taking yours. This is my role. I'm very
clear
about
my space.
This is my space. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So that thing of come slowly, I know there are different versions of the come slowly, give yourself time, is something that I really resonate with.
Yeah,
and I'm so glad that somebody was able to, one of our seniors was able to actually tell you,
just say,
just give it time.
Yeah, just give it time. Establish yourself.
Yeah.
And don't wrestle any, don't. Just come very slowly. Yeah. Because if you destabilize something or someone,
there's a ripple effect.
Yeah, there's a fight or flight response. So you're probably going to get a reaction to your action.
Yeah.
So that's one way at it, basically.
That has helped you thrive so far.
So far, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think even with neonatology, as much as there are many of us, we all bring different things. If you look at the global aspect of neonatology, we have different people who've sub-specialized in different things. Okay. Yeah. So there are those who are more comfortable with the brain, others are comfortable with the cardiac system, others are comfortable with the gut. There are different things, basically. Even in Kenya, as in you find, my training, this is what they taught us. Yeah. But wait, your training sounds like that's a little, maybe that's a little better. Maybe I can borrow that from you. Yeah. And then try that on this one baby of mine. Yes. Because one of the other things was, why should we hire you?
Yes.
We have neonatologists.
We have
many. Very many, yes. So what are you adding? Yeah. And then for me, it's I have transport, I have this, I have that, and I have this experience. And maybe if we sit together, we could buy more equipment that could elevate the level of care we're offering at this institution. Yeah. And that's very hard to sell. That's very, very hard to sell.
If it's not part of the grand...
the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. In that particular institution. Yeah. And at the same time, I think it's still an important thing to sell. Yes. Because you will meet the visionary who will be like, you know what? Yes. Can you, here's a quote-unquote blank check, or here's a piece of paper. Write down everything you need. Exactly. And we'll get it for you to do this thing, and we see how you'll be able to actualize it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it becomes, as much as like in your field, you're the only one. Yeah. Even in our field, there are people who are coming with different things. And I think that's where a couple of our colleagues who are back in Canada and in UK and in other areas, there's that difficulty of, I have this extra special skill. Yeah. How am I going to come and sell it here in Kenya? But you could agitate for that change. Yeah.
I mean, it might be hard.
Yeah.
But my faith is, I think in the next 10 years, we will be where I imagine we will be.
Yeah.
What that is in my head
is huge.
I feel like we will be there.
Yeah,
I think we will have
that.
all those resources that we saw.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I went outside.
Yeah.
Basically, because I wanted to see.
Surveying the land.
Yes, surveying the land. What is this promised land?
Yes.
And when I go back, can we agitate for these things that I found in the promised land?
Yeah.
And then try to see if we can do that, can we change anything for our babies? Yeah. And so part of coming back is let's try and push. And I think we keep pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
And there are some things that were not here when I left, and now they're here.
And now they're here.
Like cooling, which is treatment for, sick neonates who had injuries at birth.
Yes.
That wasn't there when I left. It was not
but when
there
you
when
come
I
back,
left,
you found that
when I came
the other
back,
guys who went to study brought something, agitated for it, and it's now
and
there.
It's here, yeah.
Wow.
And that was within 5 years.
Wow.
So
it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the hope that you paint in terms of what the possibilities are. Because when I think about even the giants on whose shoulders we stand on Akina Prof Musoke,
absolutely.
Rest her soul.
Yeah.
I'm sure even her, she had those big dreams.
Yeah.
And she actualized a lot of them.
She did, yeah.
And made sure.
Prof. Bwibo.
Prof. Bwibo.
Yeah.
As in guys did these things.
Yeah.
So that now as guys can now say limited. Even those limited resources, they were not there, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And they agitated for it and have taught us how to agitate for it and advocate for it and see what are the different ways that we can be able to do this. And it's just such an amazing thing. As in, I'm encouraged in terms of neonatology.
I think so. I think there's so much. The sky is the limit. Yeah. The sky is the limit. And one of the things I do is when KPA or Kenya Pediatric Association, or someone asks me to do a presentation, one of the things I put in is the neonatal mortality rate in Kenya. Mm-hmm. And then I put what would be considered the best in the world or in terms of outcomes, which is Sweden, which is 1 in 1,000. And we have 23 in 1,000. Yeah. And I put that there in that we can achieve that. Yeah. We could even aim for higher. Yes. We could aim for higher or better. Yeah. And I start all my talks with that sort of picture, that demographic, basically. Yeah. To just say, this is where these guys are. Right. And there's no reason why we can't get there. Right. No, there's no reason why we can't get there. We can agitate. Even
surpass it.
Yeah, and surpass it.
And even as you're talking about the 23, there was a time it was... 52?
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like that.
Was it 40-something?
Yeah.
50-something was children, I think. Yeah. Infants,
something. But there was a time it was in the 50s. Yeah. And now it's down to 23, which says something's happening. Yeah. People are doing some things right for the Kenyan newborn. Yes. And so that's just amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So we can agitate for change. I think, I don't know if I can speak for other specialties, but I feel like for pediatrics, you don't just advocate for the child or the patient. It's almost like you're advocating for the family and the community. Yeah. I strongly believe if you want to change healthcare, you have to change maternity services. And I think everything drives through maternity, basically. Yeah. If we went back to when we started working, when I was in Meru.
The 70 C-sections per month.
Yeah. As in, probably that place would not have a theatre if they were not doing C-sections. Yeah. That's the most commonly done surgical procedure. Yeah. Right. So if you're going to agitate for a theatre, then you have to show that there's, what are you going to use this theatre for? Right. And then you may start off with the obstetrician. Yeah. And maybe the pediatrician. Yeah. And then you push forward to, you convince a surgeon to come through. Yeah. And come in and do something, basically. So whatever it is, whether it's what I feel like if you focus into maternity and pediatrics, mother and baby. Yeah. Complex or pair, I think you can change a lot. That kind of whatever care you bring forward or resources can be used by the whole community. Whether it's an MRI or an X-ray or an ultrasound or a theatre. Yeah. You're right. I've never thought about it that way, but yes. Or a lab.
Or a lab.
Whatever it is, in that community, in that small village, that one thing will change the lives of that 70-year-old man. Yeah. It'll change the life of that 30-year-old guy who's had an accident outside. It's just,
that
it's the way to...
mother-baby
complex.
Yeah. Will have that ripple effect on a 70-year-old man.
It does. In my opinion, that's what I think. I think it just does have that ripple effect. So we need more resources poured into mother-baby care.
Hey, now gynecologists, we love you. She's available. Clearly, she's available. But then I've loved that so much, and I've really, really valued our conversation today, Phanice, because there's so many elements about the ecosystem in which you are in, and then also just the personal things that drive you, which have been amazing, and I'm so humbled that you're able to share that with us. What is the one thing or the nugget that you would share with somebody who is thinking about fellowship?
Okay, a couple of things. Think about what's right for you, and then identify the institution that will give you what you want and not need. Want. Yes. And then find out if that's achievable. So I always say, for every institution that you're in, they have a vision, they have a mission, they have a goal.
Okay.
Find out if those match with yours. Okay? And for example, you may want to train in neonatology, but you're in an orthopedic institution. You're not going to convince them to sponsor you to do neonatology. So find out something that works for you, because they will invest in you, and you can also invest in that institution. So whichever institution you choose to go and do your fellowship, make sure it's right for you, for your family. And there's a lot of learning. Even after you finish, even after my 5 years,
You're still learning.
I'm still learning.
Hey.
There's so much to learn.
After 5 years of neonatology, there's still so much.
There's so many things. And for those who are thinking about going into neonatology, my thinking of neonatology, I strongly believe it is the window and door to pediatrics.
Wow.
Because every time a baby is born, people are expecting a normal baby. Okay? And if something goes wrong, then the neonatologist is called in. And what we do, because we're in critical care, and we're also involved in the postnatal aspect of it, we are supposed to figure out what's the problem. Okay? So when you do neonatology, that's why you work with a lot of subspecialists. Because you're trying to figure out what's wrong with this baby, what's the name, and then who am I sending this baby to? Am I sending them to an endocrinologist? Am I sending them to a nephro, a cardiologist? Because one of those, let's say 50 or 100 babies that you will see, say in a year, will have a problem. And so you need to figure out what's the right diagnosis and then send them to the right path. That's why I say it's the window and door to, maybe door to pediatrics, because at that point of birth, you need to make the right diagnosis and then have them in the right path of follow-up. Because if you don't get it right, then 6 years from then on, something will go wrong. And then either the baby will die because of something that could have been prevented before, or, and sometimes you do find the diagnosis and, the patient passes away, but you've prepared them on that journey.
Right.
You've prepared them on that journey.
And what to expect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, neonatology, door into pediatrics. See, now at least neonatologists will be on my side.
I know, yes.
So all the things that I've said that we've considered, we have made up now, because we have ended on this very sweet note. But then I say this again, I really do appreciate and value everything that you've talked about today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it was so good. It was so good. And then even the environment is very NBUS. It's so hot to me. It's so hot in here. And Phanice is cool as a cucumber. And then she's just like, I'm home.
In my sleeveless.
Yes, I'm home. I'm very much at home. But then I really do appreciate that. And I'm really looking forward to the people who've been listening to your safari. Give us feedback. Let us know what you thought. Do you have other questions for Phanice? And I'm hoping that we can either put an email or a social media handle that she can be reached directly so that you can be able to ask any other questions. Clearly, you can hear mentorship is in her DNA, inside and out, as well as her ability to be able to make those connections and being able to problem solve and just really get some really great solutions. Me, I would be telling CEOs in the hospitals, Bana, if you're thinking, how do we incorporate newborn care and, all these things, this is the person I would go to. I'm just saying. If you're thinking about something new and dynamic, you would be the person that I would think about. So thank you so much, Phanice.
Thank you for the vote of thanks.
Yes.
And such, faith.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been amazing, actually. This was quite good. I encourage anyone else to come in.
You encourage other people.
Yes, definitely.
Yay!
Yes.
Awesome. So until next time, guys, bye.
Bye.
I'm so glad you stayed tuned. Please get the word out and share it with at least 3 people. Make this episode like a chain letter. Share it, share it, share it. Come back for the next leg of our safari where we'll be talking about...
If you have any thoughts of doing a fellowship, you should just dive into it and seek out all the opportunities that you have. Don't hold back. Go for whatever that you dream for. It's always achievable. Even though you might not get a place that you hope for, or you might have difficulty being accepted.
Listeners are advised to use their own judgment and discretion when applying any information discussed in this and all podcast episodes to their specific situation. Always seek the advice of a qualified professional if you have any concerns or questions regarding a particular subject matter. You can find this and other episodes of this podcast on our website at www.fellowshipsafaris.org. You can also find all our episodes on all podcast platforms. Reach out to us on social media as Fellowship Safaris on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and our Twitter handle is @fellowshipsafar. You could also send us an email on fellowshipsafaris@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you and interacting with what you have to say about the Fellowship Safaris podcast. It takes a village to make this podcast. The executive producer and original music is done by Mokavi Maweu. The sound engineer is Tevin Sudi with thanks to AQ Studios. Graphic design was done by Benjamin Mboya. We would like to give a special shout out to Josephine Karianjahe and Melissa Mbogwa of Africa Podfest. All rights reserved by Dr. Jerry Karianjahe and the Fellowship Safaris podcast.